Indeed. Well, welcome. Hello, Dominique. Glad to see you. So we are picking up here on page 482 of Sri Sarada Devi and her divine play. And I apologize ahead for two things. One, I've got a little bit of a sickness in my chest here, so I'm that's the first thing for my
Is that
voice.
missing up? I got Eric. Oh, sorry.
That's all
Sorry, sorry,
right.
sorry.
No worries. So I got a little sickness, so my voice is kind of raspy. And the second thing, I don't know why, but my I've switched into my southern accent, and I've it's not on purpose, but I can't get rid of it. I've been trying for a day here, so I'm not real sure what's going on with that. So bear with me on both of those aspects, and we'll pummel forward here. But we've been looking at grace and practice last week, and the Divine Mother had said some really beautiful things that she has done it all for us. You know that grace is the key to our inner silence. That grace is really the only way that we can find ourselves to the shrine within our heart. You know that it's the only way to get in there. And Cookie, why did you fall over?
You was using your accent again. I'm sorry.
I'm trying. I'm trying not to.
Right.
I mean, that goes way back. That goes back to my. I mean, that goes back to my childhood days, way long way back. So, she's talking about grace being the means to really accessing our inner self, the inner shrine in the heart. You know, we talk about finding the self before mind and before body, that which is you before it becomes personality, before it becomes your set of memories and your set of desires and your set of attractions and aversions. That when it is the pure Satchitananda, that love and wisdom and being, when that comes in, to the shrine of the heart, that's where we want to really identify ourselves with. That we don't identify ourselves with the qualities of mind. You know, we made the distinction between, actually that was from the Advaita class, but the distinction between being the thought of you and being the native you, the you that has no description, the you that is you before the thought happens. It's the you that is the light that reflects these thoughts and this experience of being on the mind. And normally, like in Jnana Yoga, in the path, the Advaitic path, actually, well, yeah, in the Advaitic path, that one without a second, some very stringent practices. And Ramakrishna says that if there's even a single hair sticking out on the thread, that it can't thread the needle. You know, he says, if you have even the slightest touch of lust or greed in you, that you cannot enter that space. And this is really the advantage of this idea of mixing the path of knowledge with the path of devotion, which Ramakrishna kind of really demonstrated. Vivekananda said that, how did he say it? Ramakrishna was bhakti on the outside and pure jnana on the inside. And then Vivekananda himself says that he was jnana on the outside and pure bhakti on the inside, just the opposite. And so with that, you know, when you're trying to silence the mind, when you're trying to enter that space of silence, you're going to run into the noise of the mind, and you're also going to run in to your own karma in the mind. You know, it's your mind that keeps track of your, whether you've been naughty or nice. And if you've been naughty, it doesn't give you access. It gives you reasons on why you're not good enough to be there. It points out your faults. And when you sit before your highest ideal in your seat of meditation, that's what you feel. That's what you think of. And, normally our mind, our thinking voice will tell us what we need to do. But it's not what needs to be done, because you are not your thinking voice. You are the silence behind your thinking voice. You are the peace that passes understanding. And there's no words for that self, for that realm, for who you are. That's just a place from which you observe the mind and observe the world around you as a witness. And you see the Lord playing her play in this world. And so today, she's going on with this conversation with her devotees. And one of them is, they've been talking about the fact that the mother has covered everyone, that it's through grace that we can touch this inner knowledge. And as these devotees are sitting around her and listening to her teaching, one of them says to her, "Mother, the stone image does not satisfy us any longer. We don't like, it doesn't satisfy us anymore after having been with you, with the incarnation of the beloved. It doesn't satisfy us anymore. It would be like, Jesus, people saying, a replica of the cross is not satisfying. We want to know you. We want to see you." And mother says, "Why do you say so, my child? How many hopeless sinners have come to Varanasi and attained liberation by touching the image of Lord Shiva? And he, the great God, carries on his shoulder the iniquities of all without any murmur." Shantanananda says, "Well, mother, so many days have passed away, but I have realized nothing." Mother, God has been gracious in withdrawing your mind from the noise and turmoil of the world and keeping it steady at his feet. Is this a trifle? Yogan used to say, "We may not be able to practice meditation and prayer to our heart's content, but we are free from the anxieties of the world. Look at me. I am suffering a great deal on account of Radhu." Holy Mother could see the sincerity in the hearts of the devotees, so she taught each one differently. One day, finding the mother alone, Sarada asked her, "Is it permissible to perform the worship to the master during the woman's monthly cycle?" Right? So you got these women devotees and other devotees sitting around her. And she's saying, yes, it might be true that you haven't had a vision of God, or you may not be getting any, outrageous spiritual experiences or anything, but know that I am in you, and that just the thought of me can take away your experience of the anxieties of the world. They can save you from the distractions of the world. The page before that we talked about last week, she was going on about how all of these spiritual progress comes just by chanting the name of God, just by remembering your divine beloved as often as you can. And she says the ideal would be to chant it as often as a clock ticks, 24/7, to never forget the ideal of God, that pure love and that pure wisdom in there. And so with that, each time you think of God, it opens up in the heart, because God is the pure love that you feel. Everything that you love in this world, anytime you feel that love or experience that love, that's the presence. That is God. God is love. And so your experience of love is your experience of the beloved, the divine. And your expressing that love is your surrender. You surrender that ego, which is the block that prevents us from showing our love equanimously to everyone the same. When you surrender that egoism to God, then people feel that love coming from you. Being in your presence is that divine experience. And so as she's sitting there teaching, one of the beautiful things to me about this particular teaching is that Mother takes each one of us into account. It's not a one teaching for everybody. In the West, we're very accustomed to, everybody gets treated the same. You just get, this is the way it is. Boom, 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 boom. Everybody has to do this. Everybody does the same thing. But the Mother, that because of this tradition of having a guru who works with you, they can see your heart, they can see your condition. And she gives instructions based on the condition of a person's heart. She gives instructions based on the conditions of their mind, and helps them in ways that are most expedient for where they're at. And so with this question that this person just asked about, can a woman do worship to God, during the time of her period in the month? Because in actually most of the older religions, that's forbidden. Certainly in old Judaism, that is, and certainly in Hinduism, that is also one of the teachings. And so Mother says to her, well, the woman asks, is it permissible to perform worship to the master during a woman's monthly cycle? And Holy Mother told her what the master had suggested. If your mind is distraught, if you do not perform the worship, then do it. There will be no transgression in it. But if you have any compunction, then don't do it. If you are at all hesitant, then don't perform the worship, right? So she's teaching us not to live by rules, not just by blanket rules, but by going in and asking yourself the question, how is it for you? Do you feel that it's problematic? Do you feel an impurity in it? Do you feel that you shouldn't do it? Right? And she says, let your conscience be your guide in when you approach the divine, because it's not going to be the same for everyone. Because in her next teaching, it says, however, some days later, she answered the same question differently for another woman. She says, how is it possible to serve the deities under such a condition? Don't perform any ritual at that time, right? And so it's really the condition of the heart. I have a funny story about this. It's not really a funny story because it was something that really troubled me. When I first moved into the old temple in San Francisco, when I first was wanting to become a monk, I'm starting to think I shouldn't have started this story. But I grew up in a Christian house, and in our bathroom there was a Bible. And so when you were in the bathroom, doing your thing, you pull the Bible off the back there and you could read it and spend your time on it. And that's when I would memorize my Sunday school verses and whatnot. And that was just kind of the way life was. I never even thought about that being a problem. And so when I was in the old temple, I used to have the Gospel of Ramakrishna in the bathroom on the shelf in there. At least I didn't put it on the back of the toilet. But I was sitting in there. And then one time I had some college students over to the temple, and they went into the bathroom and they came out very concerned. They said, brother, there's a Gospel of Ramakrishna in the bathroom. And I was like, oh yes, I read it. I read it in there. They were shocked. They were just really, really shocked. They're like, oh no. You should never do that. You should never put a holy book into a bathroom. That's terrible. And then they went in my room, and in my room, I was in the college. I wasn't in college back then, but I just joined the monastery. So I didn't have any a little end table for my bed or anything. So I had a stack of holy books on the floor that I was reading at night when I'd go to bed. And so after they'd come out of the bathroom and chastise me for keeping books in the bathroom, then they come into my room and they see that I'm keeping holy books on the floor. And and they're like, oh my gosh, this Westerner has no upbringing whatsoever. What's he doing now? He's got these holy books on the floor. And at the time I told them, I was like, well, why? It didn't make sense. And it's still, of course, because I'm raised in a completely different way, just didn't understand that. And the problem with it was, the thing that really bothered me about it is that after they told me that, I couldn't ever do it again without thinking about it, hearing that. And so, doggone it, after a few days, I had to get the Gospel out of the bathroom, and I had to go buy a little table for the side of my bed, because I could no longer do it freely. And I think it's very important for us as devotees to understand, if if it's not your business, if you're not that person's guru, don't pass on your right and wrongs and your set of restrictions on that person, especially if they're cultural or something that's along those lines, because then you mess it up for that person. Where they were free and where they were open before, now you've restricted them, and they can't do it anymore. So now I take my iPad in the bathroom, and that's nowhere near as good as having the Gospel in there. So this notion of everybody gets their own teaching according to their inner condition is a beautiful thing. And we should be careful. We should take that into consideration also when we want to pass on teaching. First of all, teaching should never be passed on without being asked for teaching. You're not a teacher when you think you're a teacher. You're a teacher when somebody comes to you for teaching. That's the thing. And if somebody hasn't asked, then it really isn't proper for you to say, for you to do. And if you really feel compelled to say, then first find out where the person is coming from, find out what's inside them, and be wise as you pass on these teachings. And aside from that, know that the Lord is with you and that the Lord is taking you as a person into account, that he knows your history and your story. He knows your troubles and he knows your weaknesses and your strengths, and that he'll make sure that the teachings that you get are proper and perfect for you, that there is that personal investment in there. So the next section is called Come Unto Me. Language is not a barrier in Holy Mother's spiritual ministry. When she went to South India, she understood two of their words, mantram and upadesham, meaning mantra and advice. Knowing only these words. Now you have to understand in India, just so we can get it clear, they've got at least 14 major languages and something like 100 and something other languages. And they're not just like the difference between British and American English. They're actually different languages, although most of them are rooted in Sanskrit. And when I say that, people say, "Oh, well, they should understand it then." But you have to understand that Italian and English are both, rooted in Latin, I think, isn't it? Or, well, you can say French and Italian, and they can't understand each other. So she really is. She can't understand anybody when she goes down there to South India. Right. And so knowing only these words, she could understand the intention of people and initiate them, even though she only knew two words. Right. Because there's always this talk about, when you really with pure love like that, there's a communication that happens that isn't a matter of words. And we see that magic quite a bit with Ramana Maharshi. He taught in silence. And I've told that story of Swami Damodarananda, who used to live with Ramana Maharshi, lived with him for 2 years before, and wanted to join his monastery. But Ramana Maharshi said, "No, that I am not your teacher. Your teacher will come. You stay here with me until they arrive." So he was there for 2 years. And one day, these two Swamis from Belur Mat Monastery in Calcutta arrived at the front gate. And he sent for sent for Damodarananda and said, "Your teachers are here today. You should leave with them." And I got to meet Damodarananda when I was over joining the monastery back in 2000, and all the novices loved him so much. We used to hang around him like a little flock of geese, and we would go into his room in the afternoon after he got up from his nap, and we would sit on the floor, and he would sit on the bed and just tell these stories about the old monks and the old days of the monastery, and we were just transported. And when he would go to the dining room, he'd always have at least 10 brahmacharis, novices, following him around, wanting to carry all of his stuff for him and help him get all of his stuff. Anyway, Damodarananda was telling when the time he was living with Ramana Maharshi, he said that he would study very diligently and he would write down all these questions that he would have for Ramana Maharshi, for Ramana Maharshi. And he said it was funny because he would do it continuously, but the experience every single time was that when he would have his time with Ramana Maharshi and he would go to his room and he would sit in front of him, he said that he couldn't even get himself to pull out the list of questions because they just seemed so far away from the experience of just sitting in his presence. He said that my mind would just instantly go silent and I would feel such a bliss, such a peace just sitting with him, and that there was no reason for asking those questions. And so I sort of imagined that sitting in the company of the Divine Mother was very much like that. Whether or not she spoke English didn't matter at all. She could speak to the heart. She spoke that language of love. And so even knowing these two words, she could understand the intention of people and initiate them. Although the initiates did not know Bengali, which was her native language, they understood the Mother's words through her divine expressions and her gestures. Once, Holy Mother returned to Calcutta from Jairambati after suffering from malaria for a long time. She was very weak, and the devotees were not allowed to see her. At that time, a young Parsi man named Saurabh Modi came from Bombay. He had read a book by Vivekananda and felt drawn to Vedanta. Impressed by his sincerity, Sharadananda gave him permission to bow down to the Holy Mother. Arupananda escorted him to her, and bowing down, Saurabh prayed in Hindi, Mother, please give me a mantra so that I can realize God. Holy Mother asked Arupananda, shall I initiate him? Let me do so. Arupananda replied, how is it possible? You just recovered from a fever. And moreover, no one is even allowed to see you right now. What will Sharat Maharaj think? You had better initiate him later, right? So there's several monks, that kind of take care of Holy Mother and kind of keep the general public at least metered. So there's not huge crowds around or anything like that. So they would have to get permission. And so they're afraid, that these swamis are going to get annoyed that not only did they make an exception for this young man to come see her, even though she was, not in that state, now they're going to allow her to initiate them on top of that. So they're concerned that they're going to get in trouble for this. So you better do it later. Holy Mother said, you go and ask Sharat. Arupananda rushed to Sharadananda and informed him of the matter. Sharadananda replied, what can I say? If the mother wants to initiate the young Parsiman, let her do it. When Arupananda returned to Holy Mother, he found that she had already spread 2 asanas and was ready with Ganges water. After initiation, she said to Arupananda, this boy is very good. He understood whatever I said. Amazed, Arupananda realized that this was the mother's play, right? That he knew this is that play of pure love, that ability to know your own, to speak to the heart. Later, Saurabh Modi, that's the man that just got initiated, related his reminiscences to Swami Niramayananda. It was 1918. I was then a young man. My elder brother was a devotee of Sri Ramakrishna, and from him I first heard about Sri Sarada Devi. My brother sent me from Bombay to Calcutta to meet Holy Mother. After arriving in Calcutta, I went to Bug Bazar to see the mother, who was then very ill. I had heard that no devotees were allowed to see her. I bowed down to Swami Sharadananda and I said, I've come from Bombay to see Mother, and I want initiation from her. Observing my passionate appeal, his mind softened. He asked a monk to escort me to the mother and asked me to seek blessings from her. After bowing down to the mother, I expressed my desire for initiation. Out of compassion, she immediately initiated me. Although she did not understand my language, and I also did not know Bengali, we communicated well without any difficulty. The mother spoke in Bengali and I answered in Hindi. While taking leave from her, I said, Mother, I'm going. The mother said, my son, don't say I am going. Rather say I am coming. When the mother's attendant translated her words to me into English, I was amazed. I was unaware of the Bengali custom that one should speak that way while leaving. However, I returned to Bombay with a sweet memory of the mother. She was wonderful and beautiful. That idea of saying I'm going, they're afraid that in Bengal, the tradition is that you open the door to death. If you tell somebody you're leaving, you're going. So you always say, I'm returning, so you always make sure to say that you'll be coming back. And I actually saw this once in Swami Prabhutananda, because I noticed one time at the lunch table, anytime somebody asked him if he wanted something, if he didn't want it, he would never say no. He would always say, oh, later. And so one day I just asked him, I said, Maharaj, why is it that, you never say no to food? Well, you always say later, but I don't see you go and get it later. And he said, oh, see, he says, that's just something that in my household when I was growing up, you never said no to food for fear that what if God hears you say no and decides not to give you anymore? And so he said it was a custom in our house just to always say later, so that you never said no to food that was offered to you. So we see that understanding happening here, even along cultural lines. So not just in language, but our habits and culture. So Mother is always aware of that. And of course, we take for granted, especially growing up Christian, that anybody can go to Jesus and talk, and you can always pray to him. And it's nice to see that that's generally true anytime that God has come and incarnated as a teacher, that he's always approachable for everyone, not just in language, not just in culture, but down to the very condition of your mind and body, that the teachings are for you. And when you read the scriptures, different things will touch different people. And that's not accidental. If you read a page in the scripture and I read a page in the scripture, and then we share about it, we're both going to get taught very different things. And not only that, but if you read the scripture today and learn one thing, and you come down and sit down and read that same scripture 2 years from now or a month from now, you'll find something completely different. That's the nature of scripture, is that every time you read it, it takes you deeper. It teaches you what's appropriate in the moment. And so when we read scripture or these holy books like this, even, if you sit down and clear your mind, place yourself in the presence of God and ask for teaching, then when you read it, you can know that you're being taught. It's a conversation between you and God. That's what scripture is. It's a conversation between you and God. And it's not that God's side of the conversation is already written down and always comes across the same way. It's that you'll read that same sentence many, many, many times throughout your life. And every time it's going to teach you more. That's the nature of it. And so have that reverence when you sit down to read scripture. Never think, oh, I've read this before, and then just kind of skim over it, or to think I've read this and then, not allow yourself to take it in newly again and to let it go into you. Don't just read it like, as words. Let it inside and know that it's living. This is a relationship, a dynamic relationship with the divine beloved. I remember in Shanti Ashrama, which is this old ashram or piece of land with a temple and some buildings on it up in Northern California. It's closed. There's no one living there these days. But it's been there since the San Francisco Center started around 1900. Anyway, or somewhere in there. I don't know when it was purchased, but somewhere in there. And when we would go up there to spend a week as monks, Swami Vedananda, one of my favorite monks, used to come, and at night we'd light the lantern and we would sit in the kitchen cabin, and at the wooden kitchen table on these chairs. And Vedananda would always kind of hold the book up on its spine and let the book open onto whatever page it opened onto. And he shared with me one time that he liked to cherish the idea that way you give God an opportunity to open the page that he wanted for you to read. And that's something that has always stuck in my mind, that sometimes for just in that practice, when I sit down to do my studies, I'll pick a verse or let the Bible open up, or let any of the scriptures that we're reading open up to a page and ask Mother, say, teach me something that I need to know. And then I would kind of, circle my finger and without looking at the book, touch the page. And I would take that paragraph that my finger touched and I would read it. And sometimes I couldn't figure out what in the world, why was this one chosen? But I wouldn't give up. I would keep reading it and I would keep sitting with it and keep reading it and sitting with it. And every time I got something in there that was interesting and something that maybe I had not read or not thought of before. And so, see how people approached the Mother here and see how they were with her, and know that when you approach the scripture, that's the same way, that you can be taught in a dynamic way and learn a personal teaching, a teaching that's just for you. Thus many years have passed, and now I am an old man. I almost forgot the Mother all these years as I was busy with the movie industry. Now I am waiting to call for the call from above, and that call can come at any time. I have no attraction for this world anymore. Now the forgotten Mother is coming to my mind again and again. Now those words of hers, my son, don't say I am going, rather say I'm are ringing in my ears. Now I realize that what was then inscrutable to me, I wanted to go away from the Mother but could not succeed. Now one can go away from the Mother. No one can go away from the Mother. Everyone will have to return to the Mother. This is the last realization of my life. I am coming to my Mother. I'm such a sap. But yeah, what a beautiful thing that those words those words came back and meant so much more. The first time he hears them, they were just talking about going back to Bombay. But this time he knows the real meaning. He's coming back from the world, coming back to the Divine Mother. Once Holy Mother was waiting at the Vishnupur railway station to catch a train for Calcutta. A poor porter saw her at the platform and approached her. He was not Bengali, so he addressed her in Hindi. "You are my mother Janaki," a name of Sita, the consort of Rama, right? "You are my mother Janaki. How long I have been searching for you. Where have you been all this time?" Yeah, so the Sita was another time that God incarnated, as Sita, Rama's consort. "How long I have been searching for you." And so he's seeing her in the Divine Mother. And, this is one of the teachings that's very new, especially for us in the West, is that God has incarnated many times. And that the idea of incarnation predates the Christian idea of incarnation by several thousand years. And that that in the Vedanta, all of them are accepted as the same, because it is the same beloved, the same divine that manifests each time, that incarnates each time. And so the lesson there is that in the same way that Rama is the same as Krishna, is the same as Buddha, is the same as Jesus, you were finding for the feminine, the divine feminine, it's also that same, that Sita and Sharada are the same Kali. They're all the same mother, different aspects, different faces of the same being. And so this man at the train station sees her, and what does he see? He sees his ideal, Sita, the incarnation that he worshipped, Ma. He sees in Sharada, "You are my mother Janaki, you are Sita. How long I have been searching for you. Where have you been all this time?" With these words, he began to weep profusely. The mother consoled him and asked him to bring a flower from a near railway platform. When he offered that flower at the mother's feet, she initiated him then and there. So there was no denial, even though he was calling her by a different name. She knew and she understood. She recognized him, which is a beautiful practice. And really through this understanding is how we become one. This is how we learn to respect and love each other, and to stop this judging and applying rules of egoism to our religion and pushing everyone away. That is, whatever name we call God, whatever tradition we're approaching God through, it doesn't matter. That the heart of all religion is the same. The message of all religion is the same. That love is that one most important thing, how we approach each other, and that the divine recognizes it, recognizes his devotees, her devotees, not by names, but by hearts, by essence. Surendra Sen, a young man from East Bengal, was a great follower of Swami Vivekananda. He went to Belur Math and requested an initiation from Swamiji. On an auspicious day, Swamiji initiated 3 people in the shrine, one after another, and then finally called Surendra. He meditated for a while and then said to Surendra, "The master has told me that I am not your guru. He has shown me that the person who will initiate you is greater than I. Don't be discouraged. You will be initiated at the right time." Broken-hearted, Surendra thought, who could be greater than Swamiji? Considering me unfit, he did not initiate me, but rather got rid of me. Right? It's very interesting that we were just talking about that story of Swami Damodarananda when he approached Ramana Maharshi and wanted him to be his teacher. And that he, in the same way, said, "No, I am not your teacher. Your teacher will come. You stay here. And when they come, I will call you." And 2 years later, the Swami arrived from Belur Math, and Damodarananda was sent to him and told to go back to that monastery with him. So we see that God is up to this sometimes. Sometime after this event, Surendra had a dream in which he saw himself seated on the lap of Ramakrishna. The luminous form of a goddess appeared and said, "Take this mantra." "Who are you?" Surendra asked. I am Saraswati, replied the goddess. She then uttered the mantra and asked Surendra to repeat it at least 108 times a day. But Surendra never repeated that mantra. 7 years later, in 1906, Surendra and his friend Dr. Lal Bihari Sen went to Bellarmine to attend Durga Puja. Shara Chakrabarti, a disciple of Swamiji, asked them to go to Jairambati to meet the mother. After Durga Puja, Surendra and Lal Bihari went to Karmarpur and then to Jairambati. On the second day, Holy Mother called Surendra, asked him to take initiation, and suggested that he bring some flowers the next day, which was Lakshmi Puja, an auspicious day. Surendra recalled, during the initiation, the mother put her right hand on my head and left hand on my chin, and then imparted the mantra. As soon as I heard the mantra, the whole episode of my dream initiation flashed through my mind, and I felt dizzy. Momentarily, I lost outer consciousness, but I felt an inner bliss. Regaining normal consciousness, I saw that the mother's form and the form of the goddess in my dream were the same. As soon as I said, Mother, I received this mantra long ago in a dream, she said, well, my son, does it not tally? You received the right mantra. Don't you see the master now and then? Most people pay no heed to dreams because they seem unreal. But we find that some devotees had dreams about Ramakrishna and Holy Mother that turned out to be real. The mother also mentioned that divine dreams are real, especially dreams connected with the master. You know, Swami Prabhupada also mentioned that to me one time. We were talking about these same kind of things about dreams and whatnot. And I asked him if there was any significance in dreams. He says, he wasn't a big fan of, running after meaning in dreams. But one exception, he says, is that if you see a holy man, or if you see an incarnation, or you see something, a deity in your dream, that's not a dream, it's a visitation, and that there is a reality to that. And it's quite lovely. When I was up at the Hartwood Institute studying holistic medicine way back in the 90s, I met a Buddhist monk up there. And he and I started talking over lunch about lucid dreaming. Because at that time I had a lucid dream, a dream where you're dreaming while you're dreaming. And we were talking about it. And he said that in his order of Buddhism, that they practiced this lucid dreaming, training yourself to become aware that you're dreaming when you're dreaming. And he said that when they would do that, that in his dreams at night, when he became aware that he was dreaming, the instruction for him was that to go and ask the first sentient being in the dream where the teacher was, how to find the teacher, and that he would get instructions, and he says sometimes they would send me to a cave, sometimes by a tree, sometimes by some water or something, but that he would always get an answer, and he would go and he could have that would be his guru, his teacher, and that's how he got in, or one of the ways that he got instruction in this vein of Buddhism. So it's a very ancient idea, a very old idea. So most people pay no heed to dreams because they seem unreal. But we find that some devotees had dreams about Ramakrishna and Holy Mother that turned out to be real. The mother also mentioned that divine dreams are real, especially dreams connected with the master. Premananda Dasgupta of Barasal dreamed that a luminous female form said to him, "You are still sitting here idly. You're getting old. Come with me." Premananda had heard about Ramakrishna and Holy Mother, but had never seen Holy Mother or her picture. His brother was Swami Bhumananda, who lived in Udbodhan and served the mother. Shortly after his dream, Premananda went to Jairambati. When he arrived at the mother's door, she was leaving to take her bath in that pond. He was amazed that the female form in his dream and the mother were the same. When she saw him, Holy Mother said, "Ah, my son, you have come. I was waiting for you. Please go and have your bath. When I return, I shall call you for initiation." Thus, Premananda's dream was fulfilled. In spiritual life, reason and faith are like two friends. Both guide the aspirants, right? So faith and reason are not in conflict with each other. They work together to take us forward. They should not contradict each other. You should be able to reason things out. Both guide the aspirants. We verify the truth through reasoning and then proceed as far as the intellect can take us. Afterward, faith takes over and leads the soul to its destination. Holy Mother said to Swami Asitananda, who prayed for faith, "My son, it is not easy to attain real faith. It comes at the last stage. If you have faith, you will achieve everything." Right? And that faith in the divine. One of the biggest things to have that faith in is the love and grace of the beloved. To know, that the divine has got you in her or his hand, and that is very intimate with you, and to have faith that grace is enough for you, because as that faith in that grace grows, so does the response of love and devotion in your own heart toward the beloved, toward the divine. And so by opening to grace, you open to faith. And by opening to faith and grace, you become secure in the presence of the divine. And you don't count on yourself, so you can diminish your ego. You count on the gift of the Lord, which increases your faith, increases your love, increases your devotion. And here Mother is saying that through that faith alone, you will achieve everything. In December of 1913, a woman's faith and longing took her from Raipur in Madhya Pradesh to Calcutta to see Holy Mother. She privately narrated her dream to the mother. "Mother, I saw Sri Ramakrishna and you in my dream, and you were giving me a mantra. But before you completed the mantra, the dream broke. Since then, I've been anxious to have initiation from you." Holy Mother said with a smile, "Very well, I shall initiate you today. But do you have your husband's consent?" "I told my husband about my dream," the devotee replied. "He told me I have no objection to your having initiation, but I shall not take initiation now." Holy Mother pointed to the bathroom and said, "Please wash your hands and feet there and then come to me." The devotee responded, "Mother, I've not taken my bath yet." "That's all right," Holy Mother said. "You need not take a bath." Holy Mother spread 2 asanas in the shrine, sprinkled Ganges water on herself and the devotee, and then asked, "Which deity are you devoted to?" After listening to the reply, the mother gave her the mantra and showed how to repeat it while counting on her fingers. When Holy Mother asked for dakshina, and that's according to custom, after initiation, the disciple is supposed to give dakshina, or a gift, to the guru as a token of love and gratitude. The dakshina may be money or fruits. I remember when I took my initiation way back in 2000, I was in India for the first time, and I was told by the young novice that had come to me to tell me about the phone call about going for initiation. That was what he gave me, a bowl of fruit. He said, "Here, you can give this to Mother as a gift." When the Holy Mother asked for dakshina, the devotee said that she was unaware of the custom and had not brought any money. The mother got up, picked up some flowers and fruits, and put them in the woman's hands and said, "Please say I offer to you whatever good or bad deeds I have done in my past and my present life, knowingly and unknowingly." The devotee repeated this, and the mother accepted her offering. There you have one of the beautiful things I really enjoy is, God has given you everything. So we have nothing to give the Lord. Even if this woman had remembered to bring money or some fruit, still that fruit is not hers. All of those things belong to the beloved. And I'm always remembered that story I always share. I won't go through it because I know I'll drive you crazy. But when your mom gives you or dad when you're young, and they give you some money to go buy mother a Mother's Day gift, or dad a Father's Day gift, or any other celebratory gift like that. That it's the same thing. Whenever you give something to the Lord here, it's always good to know that He's the one that gave it to you to begin with. And so what is your part in it? Your part in it is to put your love in that gift. When you give that gift back, that you choose that gift and give it to the mother as a sign of your love. And it doesn't matter at all that it wasn't yours. The mother in her grace accepts it. And this is why we have faith in pure love. This is why we have faith in grace, because we have nothing but grace to rely on. There is nothing you can do. There is nothing you can give. There's nothing that you can say that is not given to you by the beloved, by the divine. And this is how, by that grace, we're saved from egoism, by not having to worry about how big and better our gift is than anyone else's. But always that we give in humility, knowing that all that we ever had to give was given to us first by the divine. All right. The mother did not worry about the time and place for initiation if she considered the aspirant to be sincere, right? Because we know from the Master that the most important things in spiritual life, it's threefold actually, but certainly one is sincerity and earnestness, right? One is love, and one is truth. Those are the most important things in spiritual life. So the mother did not worry about the time and place for initiation if she considered the aspirant to be sincere. A devotee of Shillong wanted to test the divinity of the mother, so he resolved not to go see the mother unless he saw her 7 times in his dreams. By her grace, this came to pass, and he went to Jairambati to see her. Mother asked him to take initiation before he left for Calcutta. The devotee said that he preferred to have it in Calcutta, but mother insisted, "No, my son, let it be finished. I shall initiate you today." The devotee still objected. "Mother, I've eaten prasad. The custom is that you should have bathed and you shouldn't have eaten anything before you take your initiation." But Holy Mother did not consider that a hindrance to initiation, and she imparted the mantra, "Truly, a guru's grace is unconditional." Right? I think that we're going to stop there for tonight. And my voice is starting to kind of get a little hairy and soft. So let me mark that. Let me turn off the recorder here.